What's going on, Giants fans? Welcome back to Blue and Bold. And coming off a win versus the Los Angeles Chargers, we now face the New Orleans Saints for Week 5. Obviously, and the Saints could not have come at a better time than this, coming off an upset versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, we all knew going into the season that we were gonna have to sneak in one win that we weren't supposed to win, and somehow that was against the Los Angeles Chargers. I thought it was gonna be the Kansas City Chiefs, but we already knew how that went on Sunday Night Football. But moving on to the Saints in Week 5. Obviously, we all know that they're not a very good team. Obviously, they're 0-4. We're 1-3. It's more of a toilet bowl. Obviously, coming into the year, this is the game that we all thought should be an easy win. But obviously, with the Giants, it's probably going to be a close game, as it always is. Even though I don't think so this week, I believe Jackson Dart has brought a fire and a spark to this offense. But coming on with the injury reports, obviously we have Dexter Lawrence being questionable with an illness. That's sort of strange. I do expect him to play. I don't expect that to be a factor. Tyler Newbin is questionable with a groin. Tyrone Tracy Jr., he is doubtful, which he is technically upgraded from weeks past with the shoulder injury, but I still don't expect him to play. I would expect him to get a week off. And, obviously, I do wish him a speedy recovery, but I believe Cam Skattebo has been filling that void pretty nicely. And I believe he's an upgrade over Tyrone Tracy. At least, he's more of a fit for what Jackson Dart tries to do. Demetrius Fowles, he is questionable with a hamstring injury. Probably will not play, maybe. Darius Moose has been filling that void quite nicely, actually, last week versus the Chargers. He didn't play bad. On the Saints side, we have Juwan Johnson. He's questionable. Trevor Penning, he's not a really good offensive lineman, but they did draft. He's a former first-round pick. He's also questionable. Cesar Ruiz, a really good offensive guard, he's out. Chase Young is out. Taysom Hill is questionable. Trey Palmer, a young wide receiver, is out. And then Isaac Yiadom, former Giant, he's ruled out for the game. With the rankings, New York Giants rank 20th. This is coming to Week 5. 20th in offensive yards, 17th passing, 16th rushing, 27th in points per game. So we're sort of in the middle of the pack in terms of yardage, but obviously that red zone defense, we rank somewhere around last. So obviously not leading us to points. Obviously, we've had 2 picks, one by Dexter Lawrence and one by Andrew Phillips. We got them inside the 5, and somehow one of them only turned into a touchdown. That's got to get better. Obviously, let's hope Brian Dable and Mike Kafka have some sort of plays called up for a very bruised and battered Saints defense. On the Saints side of the ball, they're 23rd. They're not a really good offense. I mean, their only weapon is Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, and even Chris Olave hasn't been really much of a factor. Their offensive yards, they rank 23rd, 27th in passing yards, 10th in rushing yards, obviously, with Alvin Kamara. He's a top running back in this league, especially with his age. They're 28th in points, 20th on the defensive side, they rank 20th in yards, 13th in passing yards. I'm not sure how that is possible, but that's probably like an outlier stat. They probably had I'm not even sure how they got that. 18th in rushing yards and then 30th in points. So while they can drive the ball, they just fail to score points. I guess their red zone offense is as bad as we are. Obviously, this is Malik Neighbors' first game. This is our first game without Malik Neighbors, obviously, to the heartbreaking ACL injury. I just hope it was a clean one. I mean, because as we all know, most athletes don't really, get back to peak form after an ACL injury. But obviously that just means Darius Slayton and Wanda Robson are going to have to take more volume. And let's see Jalen Hyatt get some snaps. I'd like to see that, because the only thing we seem to be doing with him is warming the damn bench. I mean, you traded up for him the 3rd round a couple years back for what? Just a waste of a throw pick. If he doesn't get more volume, then that just tells me that they've totally given up on him, which it already seems like they've totally given up on him. But, we'll see. Maybe Brian Dable changes his mind. We have a revenge game. Obviously, Paulson Adebo, we signed him off free agency from the New Orleans Saints, and he's going to be versing someone very familiar to him, which is Chris Olave. Obviously, Chris Olave is a really talented receiver. Obviously, been plagued by injuries his whole career. But Paulson Adebo is getting a familiar foe in Chris Olave. Obviously, they most likely versed a lot in training camp, versed a lot in any practice, really. So Paulson Adebo should, it should be a fun matchup to watch. Other keys to the game, the Giants' pass rush has to get home versus this bruised and battered offensive line for the New Orleans Saints. I mean, last week, obviously, we seen Joel went down. They were already missing Rashawn Slater, so the Giants pass rush was able to take advantage of it, and hopefully they do it again. I mean, obviously you want to verse the Saints when they're at their best. Obviously you want to verse any team when they're at their best, but you have to take the advantages when they're given to you. I mean, Cesar Ruiz, he's a really good guard. He's out. Eric McCoy's really he's a decent center. Obviously, I believe Dexter Lawrence has the advantage over that. And then Trevor Penning, obviously he's questionable, but I do expect him to play. Trevor Penning is not really, from what I've seen, he's not really that good at offensive tackle, but he's still a former first-round pick. You cannot take him lightly. Obviously, with Malik Neighbors gone, expect little Jordan Humphrey or Bo Collins to be elevated from the practice squad. I would want little Jordan Humphrey. Obviously, we've seen that TD versus the Buffalo Bills with Jackson Dart just lobbing it up on 3rd and 5. It was a pretty good throw, pretty good catch. I mean, so they have some sort of chemistry over there. So maybe I'd want little Jordan Humphrey to get back into that lineup. Fill in the quote unquote void that Neighbors left. Obviously, you can't replace Malik Neighbors, but I don't expect this offense to take a. This offense is not really explosive without Malik Neighbors until they prove me wrong. I would love to see that. But my prediction for this game is I believe we will win. I'm not gonna be boastful about it because it is the New Orleans Saints. I believe we will win 28-14. I believe our defense will just rattle Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints. I mean, and I hope they do. Right, we'll move on to 2-3, and then we'll verse the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football, which is not gonna be a fun game to watch. But yeah, obviously, hopefully we can go 2-3, and then say if we lose to the Eagles, we'll only be 2-4, which is more than what I've expected out of this season. So if you guys like this video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. It'll all be really appreciated. It helps the channel out a ton. And yeah, let's go home with we're not home. We're actually away, but let's go home with a win. Let's go Big Blue.